Good to have you with us this first Sunday morning of May. I'm Sterling Fox. In studio across the table, Joe Murphy and Brian Brook from Murphy Battista, LLP. And strangely, on this episode of The Law Show, with a couple of lawyers, we've been talking a lot about insurance. But from a legal perspective, these guests here are lawyers, not insurance agents. They have nothing to sell from that perspective, but a lot of good advice. And we've talked about car insurance and travel insurance, and in a couple more categories I hope to get through on this program. Life insurance, and Joe Murphy, disability insurance. This is an area that most of us who have some coverage through work or privately, there's always some kind of disability rider attached. Or do people specifically buy disability insurance?
Disability coverage is a specific type of coverage, and it's really designed to provide benefits to a person who can't work.
Okay.
The difficulty comes in in understanding what totally disabled means, which means you can't work. Most people think totally disabled means you're sort of laid up in bed, you can't do anything. And at law, what it means is you can't do your job.
Right.
You can't do the important parts, all the important parts of your job.
And Brian, in the case of a brain injury, you may look 100% perfectly normal, like everybody else in the office, and you still can't do the work. Your brain won't handle it.
No, absolutely.
Okay. So, Joe, and how is a person who ends up in that predicament that Brian's just acknowledged, how do they set themselves up so that they're not ruined by whatever happened to them?
Sterling, the cases that we see generally are the cases that come in where people have been cut off benefits.
Oh.
So we see the people who are the casualties. And the pattern that we see repeatedly is people are asked for a host of medical information. There's a host of reports gotten from the treating physicians. Maybe they're sent by the disability insurer to see a doctor. And then they're written a letter saying this medical evidence doesn't support your claim,
Right,
doesn't confirm your disability. But if you want, you can appeal. And the person appeals, and they send in a bunch more medical information, and the appeal is turned down. But they're said, don't worry, you can appeal another time. And they appeal a second time, and they send in a bunch more medical information, and the final appeal is denied. What I found is the appeal is decided by the same people, or the same group,
who rejected the application in the first place.
Rejected,
Oh, great.
and that the insurance company is working long and hard to find some way that they don't have to pay this person.
And by sending more and more and more medical evidence, you're actually helping them build a case against you.
Well, you're sort of wasting your time, because in my experience, sometimes it doesn't matter what the doctors say, because the treating doctors say this person cannot work. And the insurance company says, well, this doesn't support the claim. Well, if the person's saying I can't work, and the treating doctors are saying he can't work, where's the lack of evidence supporting the claim? But disability insurers love to take the premiums, but in our experience, as they say, we see the ones walking in the door have been denied. They get denied in claims that usually are pretty obvious. Or someone will receive benefits, and the insurer will get to a point saying, well, we're going to cut you off now because we think you're able to go back to work, and nothing will have changed.
It's a really filthy and awful area of the industry that we have to deal with. I mean, let me give you an example, Sterling.
Please.
Joe and I, some years ago, were dealing with a really nice gentleman who was a logger. And he was diagnosed, I think, about a year before he came to see us with a type of lymphoma that was going to be progressive and was going to be terminal. There's no doubt about it. One of the first symptoms you have after getting this disease and getting the news you've got it, obviously it's a shock. You get depressed, and fatigue goes with it right away.
Sure.
This gentleman realized he wasn't going to be able to continue logging because it's a fairly strenuous and demanding job,
to say the least.
And he decided he was going to try to do something to improve himself in the time he had left, so he enrolled in some courses. When he applied for disability benefits on truck payments, I mean, we're not talking about big bucks. We're talking about his truck payments. The insurer turned around and said, well, you know what? You've just changed your occupation from logger to student, and there's nothing about your medical condition that disables you from going to classes 3 days a week. Therefore, you're not entitled to benefits at all. And I mean, it's the type of games and silliness that you see all the time. Disability insurers, in my experience, are notoriously bad at dealing with people.
Without naming names necessarily, unless you feel compelled, talk to us about who these insurers are and who buys disability insurance. What I have here at work, like many other workplaces, we have a benefits package, and that includes long and short-term disability and various eyeglasses, the whole deal. Is that where most of us buy our disability
Yes,
insurance?
most of it is a package through people's work.
Okay.
The odd time you'll get a professional who will go out and buy coverage because they know if they can't work, their office expenses are going to continue. So they get that, and sometimes you get a mixture. I had a client who had a senior position with the Royal Bank, and she, as the basic package, got disability insurance,
Right.
and then she turned around and personally bought more so that she'd have enough money if she couldn't work. She couldn't work. They paid her for a few months, then they cut her off in spite of the fact that all the medical evidence showed she couldn't work.
Right. So, Brian, when a disability insurer cuts a client off, they create the reason, and is that it? Once you've been cut off from your benefits that you had paid premiums for forever and a day, you get a letter. That's it. Goodbye. What recourse then does that previously insured person have?
Well, I think you have two basic choices. One is to beat your head against a wall and write a whole bunch of letters that are going to be
Appeals,
largely
yeah.
ignored by the insurer, or go to a lawyer and spend a lot of time and give up, your full entitlement to benefits to be able to afford that lawyer. Unfortunately, the way disability claims are managed, it really is geared to maximize the insurance company's profit lines,
Right.
To minimize or reduce their exposure, to pay out claims as much as possible, and to frustrate the hell out of people who are paying good money for disability insurance and the doctors who are supposed to be helping these people.
Right.
I mean, the common tactic I see is the disability insurer will write to the family doctor, send out form letters over and over again saying, I want an update. You need to complete these forms, A, B, C, D, and E, F. And the doctors get exhausted. They've got busy practices where they're helping people.
Exactly.
Not just, spending 4 hours a day filling out forms for the disability insurer. At the end of the day, most people don't have a choice other than to walk away, waste a lot of their time trying to deal with the disability insurer themselves, or to lawyer up.
Right. Now, you're the lawyers, so when they come to you with one of these claims or one of these situations in which they've been cut off and feeling pretty righteously indignant, to say nothing of being scared, are you able to help people in these cases?
Yeah, I think I would call the people that walk in the door discouraged, almost ready to give up, because they've got a health problem that prevents them from working.
Right, yep.
And then they've got an insurance company that's saying, we think you're a liar, cheat, and a thief.
Right.
We're not paying you benefits. And the appeal process, I think, achieves wearing these people out or down more and more and more. And my experience is the appeal process, it's a fraud. It's a facade. So they're discouraged, but they come in the door, and we have to look at the case, we have to look at the evidence, we have to look at the amount of the benefits, because at the end of the day, we're going to give our client a bill, and we have to make sure that
Of course.
the bill leaves enough of the recovery for them. But the insurance company depends on people getting discouraged and just going away. And I think they then think, well, we were right in cutting them off benefits. Look, they've disappeared. But some of them are just so outrageous. A client of mine who had a heart attack goes in for treatment, seems to be doing well. He worked at the railway. He goes in for a stress test, and they put him on the treadmill, and he has a heart attack again. But fortunately, he's in a hospital, so they revive him, and the disability insurer some months later cuts him off, and he lives in Cranbrook. And they cut him off because they say, well, sir, we think you can work at a kiosk in a parking lot. What they don't recognize is that Cranbrook at that point didn't have any pay parking lots with kiosks. This kind of, we think you can be a a tooth fairy.
Mm-hmm.
They just pick things out of the air that have no connection with reality, and they send these people away. And unless they go and hire a lawyer, the insurance company wins.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's just smart, and either you quit, or as Brian says, you lawyer up and take it to them.
Yep. Yep.
This is The Law Show with two guys who like to lawyer up a lot, Brian Brook and Joe Murphy from Murphy Battista, LLP. More ahead. Stay with us. Back after this.